All right, y'all, we back with another reaction right here on ABP Reactions, and right now we finna find out how streaming services quietly took over everything, man. Let's get into it.
Streaming services and the subscription model that accompanies them have quietly been taking over our lives. From the music we listen to the TV we watch, to the games we play, and even to the cars we drive. I don't think I need to go into detail for you guys to think about how all of these little subscription fees we are paying for this, that, and the third is slowly adding up over time to a number that isn't so small. I think we can all agree that both streaming services and subscription services have gotten a little bit out of hand. But this is a new problem. Especially before the digital age, this wasn't really an issue. When you bought something, you owned it. You weren't renting everything out to the point where if you missed a payment 1 month, it no longer belonged to you. So
that's the cold part, y'all. That's the cold part that got to sink in, that you don't own nothing when it's all said and gone. We come from an era of you could buy cassette tapes and CDs and all that, and you would still own it. To this day, you can still own it if you still got it in your storage, at home, upstairs, wherever you got it. But now with all this new stuff, you don't own nothing. You leave with nothing. You pay all this money monthly for these movies, for these goddamn songs, these albums. But when it's all said and done, if you don't pay that payment, you lose it all. And you leave with nothing. And you done put hundreds and thousands of dollars into this shit every month. Every year, I should say, you know? And it's just like, damn, that's really crazy when you think about it.
Well, how did we get here? To the point where a lot of what we consume, especially entertainment, we don't actually own. How did streaming services become so dominant? And how did we let the subscription model become the primary payment model for many things? Well, first, I think it's a little important to understand a lot of the problems that come with streaming services. There's probably no area where streaming has become more dominant than in music. It's estimated that 289 million Americans use music streaming services, or about 85% of the US population. And of course, among younger Americans, the numbers are much higher. In a lot of ways, I think this has been a good thing. Music is more accessible now than ever before, and you have every single song pretty much ever made at your fingertips, wherever you go. And for the most part, it's free. If you don't want ads though, it'll only be about $10 a month. If you compare that to like the 60s, where a single record cost about $3, a record player might be like $45, and speakers would be around $50, it's a pretty big difference. And it may sound affordable, but adjusted for inflation, a single album whose songs you weren't even guaranteed to enjoy, every single one, would cost about $35. And the equipment needed to enjoy it would be much more. So yeah, it's definitely cheaper to pay $10 a month than it is to buy a $35 record for every album you like. As a result, the average American today spends more than 20 hours a week listening to music, which is more than ever before. In the 60s, by contrast, the average American bought fewer than 2 new records a year. So the positives of music being affordable and accessible are very clear. But there are a lot of people who think it's also gone a bit too far. It may be easier than ever before to listen to music, but in some ways it's also becoming harder to make a living from it. Music streaming services are so cheap because the payouts to artists are so small. Once the music labels have their cut taken out, Spotify, for example, only pays artists around 1/10 of a cent per stream. With physical record sales, however, on a major label, the artist will often make as much as 30% of the sale. So if I were to buy a copy of Clips's recent album Let God Sort 'Em Out on vinyl for $25, the band would probably make about $7. For them to make that same amount of money on streaming, or Spotify in particular, I would have to listen to their song about 7,000 times, or the equivalent of listening to their songs 24/7 for about 2 weeks. Of course, I don't have access to the recording contract, so I couldn't tell you the exact numbers, but that's roughly how it works. In the past, plenty of musicians have entirely withdrawn their music from streaming services in protest of these pay rates. Taylor Swift boycotted in 2014, while the Beatles were entirely absent from streaming services for almost a decade. But obviously, most artists who leave always end up returning because music streaming services are so dominant. If you don't put your music up on Spotify and Apple Music and all that, you're pretty much killing your career. The dominance has completely changed the economics of the...
Y'all remember when Snoop Dogg tried to do that with all the Death Row? When he took over Death Row music, he was like, yeah, I ain't putting no Death Row music up there. And if you want it, I'm starting my own streaming app. And you guys got to come over here. And Death Row, whatever, I don't even know what he calls the streaming app, but they bullies, man, and it didn't work. It didn't work. Nobody was going on a Death Row streaming app to listen to Death Row music. So in the end, Snoop Dogg ended up giving in, and he's now all over Spotify, titles, everything, man, iTunes, all that shit, Apple Music. So They bullies, man. They bullies for sure.
Music industry. Before streaming, musicians made the vast majority of their money from record sales. That meant musicians like the Beatles could go without touring for years at a time solely to focus on making their music. It also meant if you had a few classic albums or songs that people were always going to be listening to, you were pretty much set for life. But nowadays, that's not quite the case. Most artists nowadays are making the majority of their money from tours, which is one of the main reasons concert tickets seem to be so expensive these days. Artists are also increasingly relying on merchandise, advertising, and other ways of cashing in on their fame, which is probably why it feels like every single musician is trying to sell you something. From regular things like clothing and merch to weird stuff like Rick Ross branded ceramic car spray, or in Drake's case, extremely sketchy gambling websites. But the streaming industry hasn't only hurt artists' pockets. Many people believe that it's actually hurt the quality of the music as well. You've probably noticed that since like the mid 2010s, the music topping the charts has been a little bit more boring. Imagine Dragons, Maroon 5, Ed Sheeran. Commercially, these artists were equivalent of the Beatles, Eminem, or Queen in their respective eras, but their music is obviously not quite as good. Except maybe Maroon 5, I don't know, man, they had some bangers. I've talked about this extensively in recent videos, so I won't go too far into detail, but just know that the systems that streaming services have in place encourage music that just simply isn't quite as good. Most artists and their record labels in particular are aware of this system, so musicians are incentivized to create music that won't be too complicated or overwhelming on the first listen. What streaming platforms are encouraging are bland, unoriginal songs that can blend into a background playlist in a way that makes you want to leave it on.
The other way that bands and music fans
That
lost.
shit is crazy, bro, what is happening right now. Like, these niggas really control music, bro, to where artists like can't make the records that they make. They gotta fold and mend to make the style of records to chase these playlists. Like, that has become the mold now. Like, I gotta make this playlist. I gotta make this playlist or else, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna get the streams. I'm not gonna get the love. I'm not gonna get the looks. And they made these playlists so powerful. It's like everybody's goal is to make a playlist. And it's like, damn, imagine that, bro, where you're not even being creative no more. You're not being creative to the point of where what's true to you. You're now being creative to the point of, I'm trying to make this playlist and this is the style of records they like on that playlist in order for me to make it. So it done fucked with the creativity of an artist now, man. And, you know, shout out to the ones who are staying true and doing them. But majority of these artists are trying to cater to what is accepted on these certain select playlists and what styles they like so that they can fit. You know what I mean? And that's fucked up.
Is that because streaming is more or less free, you have access to everything. There's just but significantly less focus on actually listening to and loving music. If you can listen to anything you want all of the time for free, if something is uninteresting to you after 3 seconds, you don't give it any attention. Music, interesting, in-depth, curious, challenging music takes time to focus on. Music has definitely not gotten better, and I'm saying this as a music fan since I was a child, since streaming happened. Streaming doesn't make music better. Streaming makes music it makes music have to be a commercial in order for it to potentially grab somebody's attention.
It's also hard not to think that Spotify is devaluing music with some of the statements that their CEO, Daniel Ek, has made. He's claimed that the cost of creating music now is close to zero, and he also said it's not enough for musicians to release albums only every 4 or 5 years.
Man, that's crazy, man. And Spotify is definitely incorporating a lot of AI artists on their platform. There's tons of AI artists on their platform that are owned by Spotify. Spotify has people making these records. We did a video about that. We reacted to a video about that, where Spotify has creators making all these AI artists and making all these AI playlists so that people could put on and just let play at the office or play on the elevator or play here. And it's taking over, man. And I just saw for the first time ever, an AI artist just went #1 on Billboard in country music. They went #1. The first AI artist to ever go #1 on Billboard has happened. So is that possible to happen in pop music and rap music soon? Yes. So are we looking at the depth of creativity of artists? Yeah, to a certain extent. To the point where people are like, look, our hands is the ones, this is our app. We're going to create the R&B and rap artists, and we're just going to blow them up and put them on these playlists and make it to where these people who love enjoying playlists and just let shit play, or who let the algorithm flow, are going to fall in love with these records organically because of us. We control the narrative. We control what they pick, what they choose. We control what they could do. We control what's highlighted on this app, what's not highlighted, what's shadow banned, like anything else, man. And it's fucked up. It's fucked up.
Also blamed labels when Spotify themselves are one of the lowest paying streaming services.
Many people still think Spotify doesn't pay the artists. Who should they direct their inquiries to, if not to you at Spotify?
Yeah, well, technically it is true that we don't pay artists directly. So what we do is we pay all the rights holders. So we pay the record labels. Yeah,
yes.
Record labels, but also the music publishers.
And I think there's one other major problem when it comes to music streaming services in particular, and it's the fact that you don't actually own any of the music. For example, if Spotify wanted to change the music, they could. Let's say you really enjoyed the original mix of The Life of Pablo by Kanye. Well, that's unfortunate because it's no longer available on a single streaming platform. Even worse, in my opinion, Spotify or other services could just remove the music if they don't want it on there. For example, in 2017, Spotify removed all of XXXTentacion's music from their playlist and recommendation features because it supposedly violated their guidelines on hateful content. It was only...
See what I'm saying? Like, that's the shit. Like, you don't own nothing no more. That was a thing, like having the original version of this song and being able to pull it out years later, 20 years later. Like, nigga, this is when it first came out. This is how it sounded before they changed it. I have it right here. But today, you don't have that. You don't have that anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like, now these motherfuckers at any given moment could switch up, could subtract and take it out your goddamn playlist, could take it off your streaming sites, and you ain't gonna have access to it no more. Now you're gonna be like, man, please bring it back. Please bring it back. They got us, bro. They got us. It seemed like in the beginning, it was a better play because, like, what? I could pay $10 and listen to all the songs in the world? But I don't think nobody thought this shit all the way through to 20 years later, how this will affect us. Like, damn, we don't own shit when it's all said and done. What are we going to go back and give our kids? Like right now, with these vinyls and all that type shit, you could go back, if you got the original ones, you could go back and give your kids the original cassette tapes, all that. You could show them, like, this when I was in high school, this was my CD book. Look at all these CDs I had in high school when I got my first car. You're not going to be able to do that right now with music. Like, what are you going to show your kids 20 years from now with music from this era? Like, this was my playlist on Spotify when you was a baby? Like, that shit, the app might be gone. The app might be out of here.
Only after Kendrick Lamar threatened to remove his entire catalog that this policy was abandoned. Although even then, other controversial artists like Tay-K, for example, remained in the same situation. And I'm sure there's more examples of Spotify just straight up taking music off of the platform. But I think the most egregious example I can think of is their release of the car thing. If you bought the $90 Spotify car thing, you would get a small touchscreen tablet designed to be plugged into your car's dashboard, allowing you to control Spotify and play music in your car. Which, of course, if you didn't have one of those built-in things on your car, I don't know, I have an old car, but if you didn't have that built in, this would be very helpful. The car thing, though, was a huge flop, losing the company $31 million. So, less than 3 years after being officially released, the car thing's functionality and software support was ended completely, rendering it useless. This still blows my mind to this day, but Spotify somehow had the power and got away with completely bricking and disabling something that many people had bought for $90. Imagine you bought something for $90 and then it was just ripped away from you. Like, I feel like that's just a scam. It's to the point where if you actually even do own something, it doesn't matter because companies can still take it from you. And while I am primarily a music channel and I can acknowledge that streaming services have caused a lot of problems for the music industry, I think that both streaming and subscription services are a bit worse in other industries, particularly when it comes to TV. It may be true that Americans use streaming for music more, but it's not by much. In fact, it's actually estimated that about 83% of Americans use streaming for TV, which is just 2% less than those who use it for music. While Spotify and music services helped popularize the subscription service model, platforms like Netflix were some of its pioneers. Netflix used to be a mail-to-home service, which basically meant they were like a Blockbuster that mailed you your DVDs. By the way, rest in peace to Blockbuster. But basically, you'd pay this...
Blockbuster was a shit, man. When we was kids, Blockbusters, that was like some shit. You go with your family, nigga, your dad, your mom, your sister, your brothers. Then go on the weekend, go grab some movies. You get like 2-3 days to watch them and bring them back. Blockbuster was the shit. And they have some little candy in there at the counter and all that shit you could buy, and popcorn and all that shit.
Monthly fee, you'd get discs in the mail, and then when you returned them, you could get new ones. And then Redbox came around and was crushing it for a while.
Redbox
Not sure
was
if you
going
guys
crazy.
remember Redbox, but that was gas,
Redbox
especially
was
when they
going
added
crazy.
video games. But I digress. Then as websites like YouTube began to take off, Netflix realized they could start streaming shows. This made it so that customers could watch any title, anywhere, anytime. Something that you couldn't do with regular cable TV unless you recorded every single episode and somehow brought it with you. Because a lot of you may not even remember this, but back in the day, they used to have like a broadcast schedule and things would air live. I mean, it still does, but no one really watches cable anymore. But even then, a lot of streaming services offer these pricey bundles to watch sports live. Regardless, Netflix was so much better. And
Sunday ticket on YouTube, they charging $400. They taxing. They done found a way to bully and separate to where they don't gotta let one person control the ball. Like one person, nah, we can do our own shit. We can take our company, start our own streaming site. You know what I mean? Get all that motherfucking, all them subscriptions, all that data, all that shit, and then sell it to one of you motherfuckers for the high, or merge with your company and we become one, or license our shit to you for a certain amount of years. They playing ball, man. It's all greed at this point. And when you look at it, the whole objective of going to these streaming sites was to get rid of paying a cable bill, because cable bills was like $180. It had got to the point where you was paying $180 for cable. And you like, man, I could just go get a streaming site for $10 and I get 4 of those for $40 and I'll be straight. That's how it was in the beginning. A lot of people left cable because they wanted to go to pay cheaper prices with streaming. And then smart TVs that came along where you could just stream to your TV directly. And you sacrifice a lot of shit. Like, fuck it, I'm just going to grab 3 or 4 apps. I'm going to watch whatever these 3 or 4 apps offer. Anything else, fuck it. But now it's to the point where these motherfuckers is charging $20, $30 a month. What started out as $6 a month, $9 a month. You know what I mean?
Convenient that it quickly began to dominate the entertainment industry. Back then, Netflix had a lot of great shows you could watch without too much competition. But now, since there are so many streaming services in the TV industry, they are buying the rights to different shows, movies, and franchises. So if you like a variety of shows and movies, there's a good chance you will need to have subscriptions to a variety of services, which is honestly at the point where you're going to end up paying more than you would have for cable. You got Netflix, Hulu, Paramount, Disney Plus, Max, Crunchyroll. There are so many streaming services that are each slowly siphoning your money. I'm sure all of us have had some sort of experience where a new show comes out, you're excited to watch it, you Google where to watch it, and it's on this brand new streaming service you've never heard of, or it's on the one that you don't have, which is extremely frustrating. Apart from this making things expensive, it also gets rid of the security of ownership. If I bought Netflix a few years ago to watch The Office, that sucks because now it's on a different service. Even worse than that, if there's a show or movie you like, it can just be taken off of the streaming services and you will have no other way of watching it. For example, over the course of this next year, Netflix is getting rid of over 100 of their original series, which means you will either have to get a new subscription to watch them, or maybe they're just getting rid of them. I'm not even sure. Another example, and unfortunately this is the only one I can think of, but recently I just watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I learned that there's a couple episodes that they don't have on streaming, but because I watch them on a different thing, I could watch them. But yeah, they banned these from streaming and there's really no way to watch them unless you want to pirate it. Another problem that comes up with TV streaming services is very similar to the music ones, and it's that they are actually making TV worse. As I mentioned earlier, Spotify and other streaming services prioritize inoffensive, bland songs that have a lower chance of being skipped in a playlist. And they also like songs that people can comfortably listen to in the background, which, unbeknownst to me, these streaming services are attempting a similar thing. In a very similar sense, TV streaming services are expecting you not to fully be paying attention to the shows that you're watching, instead expecting you to be on your phone and maybe only half watching.
She'd heard from so many showrunners who are given notes by the streaming channels that they say, this isn't second screen enough. The viewer is expected to be on their phone, kind of half doing something else while your crime drama or whatever is playing. And you just can't make it as complicated as you have because they're not going to understand it because they're only going to be half concentrating on your show.
This is funny to me because it's a pet peeve of mine when I'm watching a show with someone and they're on their phone because, like, I don't know, I'm so locked in on it. But I guess a lot of people do this. And this may explain why a lot of shows, especially shows that might be Netflix originals or shows produced by the streaming provider, might be a bit lackluster. They're also stretching out the releases of shows so that your subscription subscription has to renew rather than posting it all at once like they may have before. And probably the worst offense that these streaming services have committed is raise the prices a bunch. After COVID, a lot more people were home and watching TV, so not only did the streaming services crack down on password sharing, but they also realized they could raise prices and there wasn't much people could do about it. Disney Plus was launched at $6.99 per month with no ads, and now its ad-free version is $18.99.
Crazy, man. Look at that price jump, bro. $6.99, $18.99. Nigga, Netflix was doing that shit. I remember I got with Netflix, that shit was probably like $4.99, $5.99. It was cheap as hell. Now Netflix like $24. Now they hit you with the no commercial. Oh, you want the no commercial version? This much. If you do this much, it's with ads. You're like, where did all this come from, cuz? What is you niggas on, bro? They taxing all these motherfuckers.
Hulu launched at $8 a month with ads, and now its new tier with ads is $11.99, not to mention their super expensive live TV tier. Netflix launched at $7.99, and now its most premium option is $24.49 a month.
Look at that shit, bro. $24. Look at that price jump, bro. Look at that price jump. That is crazy. You niggas done went up that much fucking money on us.
Apple TV launched at only $4.99 a month, which is surprising, and now it is $12.99. And most of the other services follow a similar trend. I don't think I need to go into much detail about this. I'm sure most of you are familiar, or at least somewhat aware of how frustrating these services can be.
They killing us.
Believe it or not, it's not just music and TV where streaming and subscription services are making our lives more difficult. Now, streaming is one thing, but this model of digital products switching to subscription services has gotten kind of bad, to put it simply. On average, Americans are spending $273 a month on subscription services. Of course, a large chunk of those...
Cable used to be $180, bro. Now look at this, $273 a month. In the end, they got us, bro. They got us. They got us. The average motherfucker is spending $273. What made this shit appealing was it was cheaper than going the cable route. And now they damn near doubling. It's just crazy.
Costs are coming from TV and music streaming services, but there are many other areas of our lives that the digital subscription service model is creeping in. Subscription services have actually been around for a long time. You actually used to be able to sort of subscribe to the milkman and he'd drop off milk at your house, and once you stopped paying him, he would just take you off his route. But when it comes to the rise of subscription services and digital products, this is a lot newer. Companies like Netflix and Spotify were instrumental in influencing this new wave of digital products that require subscriptions. And now it's beginning to reach far beyond just TV and music. One of the few things I remember from college is a term called forced scarcity. Artificial scarcity essentially describes situations where the producers or owners of a good restrict its availability to others beyond what is strictly necessary. And a perfect example of this is Adobe software. As a YouTuber, I regularly use software from Adobe such as Premiere Pro to edit videos or Photoshop for thumbnails. And back in the day, you could have bought both of these programs for around $500 total. I didn't have money like that back then, unfortunately. So nowadays, to access Adobe software, you can no longer buy it outright. Even though it's totally possible for you to keep the software once you buy it, Adobe decided to switch to a subscription service that cost me about $50 a month to own their programs. After just 10 months at this price, I will have effectively bought the programs outright, but I can't, so instead I've been paying $50 a month for years, which over the lifespan of my channel would be like $3,000. Adobe in particular is actually so slimy and greedy that they got sued by the FTC, but that's a whole other story. Subscriptions are getting so crazy to the point where you got to pay $100 a month to get autopilot in a Tesla, an option they have available.
They just hit me with that shit for my Benz. They hit me with the autopilot. You gotta pay for the autopilot. Then $200 for the camera. I'm like, damn, y'all niggas is taxing for everything in these motherfuckers, bro. They finding a way to milk us, so y'all get ready for that. They finna be charging y'all to listen to the radio in your cars like soon in these newer cars. They gonna charge you the nigga fill up gas. They gonna charge you to do this, charge you to do that. They find a way to milk your ass. That's what they doing right now. It's crazy.
Well, if you don't want to buy it outright. And a lot of these subscription services make it very difficult to cancel, to the point where the FTC proposed a rule revision called click to cancel, with the whole goal being to make it easier to cancel subscription services. The lobbyists for these companies said that this rule would cost businesses $2.7 billion, which is crazy to think about the fact that they basically admitted to making $2.7 billion off of people who aren't able to cancel their subscriptions but likely aren't using them. And it makes sense. When I tried to cancel one Adobe subscription, I found out that they signed me up for an annual plan billed monthly, so they charged me for like $300 for the rest of the year. And in a rare moment, I was so upset that I called and got it refunded, and I think they refunded it because the FTC thing was going on. Regardless though, it's very ridiculous. I've actually had a similar concern with Xbox Game Pass as well. As consoles are releasing without disc drives and video games are going fully digital, it almost feels like gaming could be moving in a similar direction as streaming services. The Xbox Game Pass is another subscription service with different tiers.
They putting that shit on all the TVs now too, that Xbox. I feel like they're going to eliminate Xbox in a minute, the actual console, because now that shit is like built into goddamn computers and TVs now. I've been seeing that shit, man. I'm like, what is going on?
Ranging from $10 to $30 a month. It's a similar situation where if you game a lot, sure, it makes sense to get it, especially if you're playing a wide variety of games. But for most people, it'll probably just end up costing them more in the long run than if they just bought the games outright. Now, I don't think this is a big problem now, and I'm sure gamers won't ever let it get as bad as TV streaming services, but just imagine a world where Nintendo, PlayStation, Steam, and Xbox all started buying up exclusive titles and putting them on their own passes. With no disc drives and no options to buy games outright, this could very well be the direction in which games go. I don't know if that's possible, but I mean, that could be a thing. I don't know. It's always worried me. But these are just a few random areas I can see these streaming services and subscription services creeping into our lives in possibly uncomfortable ways, which has left a lot of consumers doing something kind of strange and something pretty predictable. Because of the modern age streaming and subscription services, we are left with a few problems. You no longer own half of what you buy. The fracturing of streaming has you spending just as much, if not more, than cable, and it's actually lowering the quality of content, whether it be music or television. And this has left people returning to one of two things. The first of which is the major return of physical media. All over my YouTube page, I've seen tons of...
Y'all remember that? Going to Walmart and the DVDs on sale for $5 an aisle, 2 for $10, 3 for $10. That was like signs right there that it was over with. And y'all remember when Best Buy started shrinking down their CD aisles, their DVD aisles, to where you would go in Best Buy and it'd only be like 4 aisles? Coming up, Best Buy that was like one of my favorite places next to Circuit City before Best Buy. And you'll go get these CDs and you'll walk in, there'll be aisles and aisles of CDs, DVDs. You know what I mean? And you go to that motherfucker looking for your favorite CD. That shit used to drop. Music used to drop on, well, they had a point where music used to drop on Tuesdays. And I even think it was a point where music dropped on Mondays. But it used to drop in the beginning of the week. And then they changed it to where it's with streaming and all that shit and all that started dropping on Fridays. I think right before streaming, they started doing that too. But it used to be the beginning of the week. And I remember after school, high school, I would go to Best Buy, man, and go get the goddamn CDs and I'll burn them motherfuckers. I had a CD burner. I'll burn them for the homies. I'll make little mixtape compilations and all that shit. And that shit used to take some time because we had dial-up internet, nigga. That shit used to take, nigga, 4 hours for some shit sometimes, nigga, to download music and burn shit. It's take forever, nigga.
The people switching back to physical media, which is pretty cool. All of these problems are why more and more music fans are abandoning streaming services entirely and going back to CDs and vinyl. From 2010 to 2023 alone, the size of the vinyl market has increased by 18 times. And of course, it's not the only non-streaming option. Physical media is definitely more expensive and less convenient than music streaming, but with physical media, you do actually own the music. Instead of letting the faceless Spotify algorithm progressively feed you blander and blander songs, with no guarantee they were even made by real artists, you have complete control over what you listen to. I can also say that having a physical copy of your favorite album definitely brings you a lot closer to the music. The same can be said for DVDs or video games, and one of my favorite parts of physical media is when you buy a CD or a record and they have like a cool poster or sticker or something inside. It's always a fun little surprise. On top of this, people are switching to MP3 players, opting for digital cameras instead of iPhone cameras, and overall trying to dumb everything down to how it used to be.
As I'm editing this, I'm realizing I don't know if I made my point like clear enough about why physical media is important, but I think this sums it up. In 20 years from now, I might want to play Modern Warfare 2, but who's to say in 20 years that Modern Warfare 2 won't be on the Xbox Game Pass and that I might not have the new Xbox, but I can still go back and play on my old Xbox with my old disc. The same could be said about this record. Who's to say that this will be available on streaming services in 20 years? And you could make that same argument for TV or anything else. There's no way to really know that my favorite show or movie will be on streaming services, and if it is, who's to say in 20 years I will have that exact streaming service, or it won't be $50 a month, or you know what I'm saying. If you actually really enjoy something and you don't own it, you run the risk of not having access to that in the future. And if you do want to access it, you may have to pay for it again. You may have to pay for the subscription.
Bullying.
You may forget to cancel the subscription.
Bullying.
Or it may be very difficult to cancel the subscription. There's a lot of problems that come with this.
The problem with this, though, is like I said, it's pretty expensive and inconvenient. It's a lot harder to go to the record store or the DVD store than it is to just search for something online, which is why a lot of people are going back to piracy. For a long time, the innovation of streaming services was great. It came at a time where it made streaming more convenient than piracy, since piracy was running rampant at that time. But now, after all of the fracturing of streaming services, the major increase in prices, and the lack of ownership, people are now switching back to piracy. Illegal downloading of copyrighted material takes up 24% of the global bandwidth, which is a crazy stat to think about. I've seen a handful of people talking about the return of physical media, but the return of piracy is on a whole nother level.
I ain't gonna lie, this shit got me convinced. I wasn't even thinking about it to that deep. I did look at it like, damn, we ain't gonna own nothing out the gate. I always looked at it like that, like we ain't gonna own shit. Like they basically control like all the shit we done put together. Just think, some people got playlists that they've been putting together for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. That they've been working and just putting together and saving music that they love for years. And if you don't pay that streaming site bill, they could strip that of you. Boom. All them years gone. They can strip that shit away from you. You don't own shit. So that's really crazy. But I did see La Russell, shout out La Russell. He's doing like trying to sell 100,000 albums? And whatever, or something along those lines. But I see that he is burning physicals. He's going back to old school. And Daz was talking about that recently too, as he was getting into it with Snoop Dogg. Ownership. He like, man, burn y'all shit. Burn y'all shit. But the thing is, in these cars, it's nowhere to play CDs. So a lot of people looking at it like that, like, how can I listen to it? But it's going to be interesting to seeing what comes from this if people do go back to physical, to buying CDs and wanting CDs, physicals. I think it may go back to that, man, because the surge in vinyls, I got a lot of vinyls right here behind me. I got a lot of vinyls. I love vinyls, man, but the surge is, I'm starting to see, like I just told y'all before I streamed earlier today that my daughter, it's her birthday. She wants vinyls for her birthday. She's in high school. So I think it is slowly starting to make its approach back. And if the youth start demanding it, it's going to be a strong, I think this is going to change the game. But it has to be everybody on the same accord. It has to be. Like, everybody got to come together, man. The olders, the youngers, the young folks. We got to figure, like, hey, look, we want to own our shit again, man, because right now y'all getting us. Y'all, we can't walk away with nothing at the end of the day. Y'all taking all this money from us, and we leave with nothing when it's all said and done if you want to strip it from us. So I'm with that, man. I'm with that. Let's get back on the physical train, man. They all work together. All these companies work together to run plays on us, man, because they really stripped out CD players out the cars. They stripped out the aux cords. They stripped out all that shit.
2020, piracy reached a low of 130 billion reported website visits, but in 2024, that number went up to 216 billion. And apparently in Sweden, 25% of people surveyed reported pirating in 2024. Netflix and Spotify originally beat piracy because it was easier to use these services than it was to go to a janky, slow-to-load illegal website. But now, especially when it comes to TV, it's easier to go to these janky websites than it is to subscribe to 5 different streaming services every time you want to watch a new show. And I'm not going to tell you guys to pirate stuff, but you definitely shouldn't be paying for it the way things are going. It's time for a change, and I think the consumers are making that very clear. If you like this video, you might like my video on why Spotify is so bad and why so many people are leaving it.
That's the one we reacted to right here. It's on ABP Network, so y'all can go check this out on Spotify as well, man. All right. Yeah, man. It's the return of physicals, man. I think the movement is going to hit, and it's going to hit hard. Because I'm really sitting there and I'm watching these streaming services, how much they hit people for, how much they've been hitting me for. And I'm like, damn, I can still remember why I converted. Because this when Fire Sticks was going up. Y'all had a Fire Stick, a jailbroken Fire Stick? You remember you could get a Fire Stick and then go on YouTube and find out how to jailbreak it in 5 minutes? And then that's when streaming TVs was out and everybody was streaming on the Fire Sticks. And that was like groundbreaking. Like, oh shit, the jailbroken Fire Stick. And then all these streaming services, they started like separating, like, oh, if it's not Disney, Disney is starting its own shit where only all things Disney's got to be on Disney. And then Fox is starting their own shit where Fox owns Tubi. So they was throwing shit in there in Tubi, and it was all this shit going on, all this separation where they was stripping shit from where nothing was coming on cable no more. It wasn't like HBO on cable wasn't getting nothing because HBO was leaving to start their own goddamn streaming site. And it's like, damn, what the fuck is going on? So it kind of forced you to go the streaming route and pick your favorites. And even in the beginning, they used to package them up. Like if you buy one streaming site, you get these two with it for the first couple months or first year. They was doing little packages, man, that was enticing, and the price point was good. You'll look at it like, damn, I'm only paying $20, and right now I'm paying $180, so I get to save me, nigga, you know what I'm saying, $160, $150. But now, nigga, as they said, the average American is paying $273 a month in streaming services. So in the end, they got us. They got us, man. Let me know what y'all think, though, man. Are y'all going to go back to physicals if things go that way? Are you opposed to it? Or do you want to keep going with the streaming thing and you're willing to pay and it's not that deep for you? Let me know in the comment section. I'm going to give y'all 2 seconds, smash the like. And as always, get ready for the next reaction.